I worked in a job that the bosses I had, nothing was ever good enough, and I was the lowest level of management. So I got the pressure from up above. I got the pressure from the employees. And it got to the point where one day I stopped at the side of the road on my way home from work because I didn't want to get all the way home. I pulled to the side of the road because I was crying so hard. I was afraid I was a danger to people. And I remember saying, "Oh, just stop the world and let me off." And then it kind of dawned on me, well, that's not a good option because they're not
Wow.
going to stop the world and let me off. I would have nowhere to go. So I finally got myself together. I went home, but I had made the decision in my mind that I was going to leave that job. At the time, I could not do that because I was the sole support of my husband and myself. I'd say sole support. He was receiving Social Security of $78 a month, and that doesn't really help pay the bills. So, and he was going through a whole process to get his regular Social Security, but that took about 18 months. So I wasn't able to quit that job. But when I was able to quit that job, I vowed to myself I was never going to work for anyone ever again. And I started my own business, and it was a stressful business because I had so much responsibility. I had the responsibility for guiding people financially. And I have to admit that I had a little imposter syndrome for 24 years because of the situation I had with my husband's disability and me being the breadwinner. I wasn't always able to follow my own advice, the advice that I was giving my clients. My clients were much more successful than I was. Anyway, that's a long way of saying that emotionally, psychologically, mentally, I had pretty much shut down. I felt that every day's life was a struggle. But again, it was sticking in my head that something in my life had to change. And it wasn't just business. I realized, like that day that I told you about that I pulled to the side of the road because I was crying so hard, it came to me at that point. I was in my mid 30s then. And I realized at that point that if I can't change a situation, the only thing I have control over to change is my perception of that situation. And so that's kind of what was going through my head. And I realized that, the question, if not now, when? And I realized that if I wanted my life to change, I was at the when. And that one course that I had kind of scraped the money together to take, I came out of that. I put together a small online course and I sold it and doubled the money that it had cost me to take the course. And that kind of led me in a new direction. In the process, somehow I got on somebody's email list, and this whole idea of doing summits came up, and it's like, my gosh, I don't know that I could ever do that. I don't know anything about interviewing people and stuff like that, but I decided to give it a whirl, and that has been phenomenal for me. But a lot of that has to do with a difference of mindset. I think that one class that I had taken gave me more confidence that this is something that I could learn. It's not that I hadn't been learning. In fact, if I had not learned a lot prior to taking that class, I would have been lost in the class. There's no way I would have gotten any value from that. So there was the mind shift going on, but I don't think it was just those things that changed the mindset. I do believe very strongly that working with you helped me break through some barriers that had been built up over time. And without being able to break through those barriers, I think I would still be stuck today. Because if you have those barriers, no matter what you try, it's like beating your head against a brick wall. I cannot recognize the person that I was when we started working together. I recognized that I was very closed off, that I was pushing people away, pushing a lot of ideas away. I had a closed heart and a closed mind. It's only by looking back that you can say, wow, was I really like that? And being so much happier the way I am now. And I have to say, for anybody who is wondering about how their own personal changes will affect the people around them, I can guarantee you it will. And as you start to change and grow, they're not taking that journey with you. They were not used to me standing up for myself. They weren't used to me speaking my truth. And I'm not talking about being a belligerent, in your face person. I'm simply saying, when they say something, it's like, I think, well, that's not the way it is, or take a look at it from my point of view. I have a point of view that is different from yours. And I would not have done that before. Or if I did it, I would do it in a very angry way, a slap them in the face type way. And you did help me very much see that everybody has their motivations. I think as an author, as a fiction author, I think I have realized that everybody has their own motivations. But you helped me see that not from a fictional point of view, but from an honest to God, we are living in this moment point of view, that everybody has a motivation. They don't think they are evil. They think they are justified in their own minds. They are justified. And so that has helped me when I see something that I feel is, in my eyes, wrong, to open my heart and see them from their point of view with love. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it, but I can send them love and send them on their way. The fact that you work on a spiritual level instead of just a mental level is not just get down on the couch here and tell me your life story, and then someday you will resolve it. It isn't that at all. In fact, a lot of times I got the impression if I didn't resolve something, that was okay. I just had to learn to live with it. And that if I didn't want to live with it, then I would work toward resolving it. Yeah, I really felt that this was a spiritual expansion. The psychiatrists and the psychologists, they're working on the mental part of it, not realizing that all the influences that are coming into your life, there are so many influences that are coming into your life that are not seen or smelled or tasted or heard. They are felt on a cellular level almost, so that you don't realize that you're actually feeling them. They're more on a cellular level. And it's those things that need to, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, recognized to be able to shift that. It's like shifting the perception, but it's more than just a perception in your mind. I think it actually gives you a physical shift also. And I'm verbalizing things that I have not consciously been thinking about until this moment. Well, in fact, something that you just said reminded me of a conversation that we had before we started working together, when I was really trying to find in my mind, am I going to do this? I asked you if your program had a framework that it utilized, or if you personalized everything for each person. And you said yes. I'm going, well, yes, which? And you said, yes, both, which gave me a lot of comfort, because I didn't feel as if it was going to be like sitting on a psychiatrist and just having them probe. I did want to have the comfort of knowing that there is a framework that we will be starting in one place and working toward another place. And yet it wasn't cookie cutter, that it was that myself had a great impact on it. And it did. I was very surprised on how we started through different aspects of life and proceeded through them, and took the time for any that needed to be delved in a little bit deeper. I think sometimes when people work with mental health professionals, a lot of it is that person becomes a crutch to them. From the very beginning, you've kind of let me know, and I think that you do this with all of your clients, that you're not there to be a crutch. You're there to help us develop our own coping mechanisms, if you will. I don't even like the term coping, because it goes beyond coping to the point where we're not having to cope with something anymore, because we have grown past that. I don't think I don't think I've trusted my intuition for most of my life. There are times I know my intuition was trying to tell me something and I didn't trust it, so I ignored it. And of course, every time you ignore your intuition, it gets weaker, because why should I tell her anything? She doesn't listen to me anyway. I do try very hard to listen to my intuition now. And sometimes those nudges are so subtle, you really have to stop and pay attention. Oh, okay, so that's something I'm going to pay attention to now. And that's a very helpful thing in life. Even when I was putting up a fence between us, I won't say a brick wall, because we had disposed of the brick wall, but there were still times, even very recently, like within the last 6 months ago, I was putting up like the picket fence. You never really criticized me or reminded me, hey, slap on the face, you're past that, girl. You never did that. You kind of let me go. And then it was, you very, very gently asked me different questions and just helped me to open my mind and realize, oh, I'm putting up that fence again. I'm not having the confidence in myself. I'm saying that I have to instead of I want to. And working with you has been a way for me to work with myself, things that I wouldn't necessarily think about asking myself or delving into. I do a lot more journaling now than I ever did before. I was never really a person to journal, and I do that more. But there are things, if you just say, oh, well, I'm going to start journaling and, make all these changes in my life. If you don't even know the questions to ask yourself, how on earth are you going to be able to make those changes or even find those changes? We all have blind spots about ourselves, and you're able to make us more aware of what those blind spots are without feeling an inadequacy because of it. In fact, there's nothing that you've never in the time we've worked together made me feel inadequate because of my inadequacies. And there have been some things on an energetic level, very definitely, that I want to change, and I had no idea how to change. Thank you. That's one other thing that people should know is that in your framework, you have certain tools for us to use. And the nice thing is those tools, we can start going through them and start our expansion, but it's not like it's a one and done. We can get to another place in our life and go right back to them and say, okay, wipe the slate clean. Or in my case, just print out another one. And, let's go through this again because I'm a different person today than I was a year and a half ago. So I'm going to have different perceptions today than I had a year and a half ago. And so a lot of the things that, the tools that you gave me early on, I'm already saying to myself, I'm going to have to be revisiting that one pretty soon. And I'm excited about that because that means that a lot of the work that we have done together, if not all of it, but it's as much as I could pull out at the time has been completed. I am a different person now, but I can see to myself, it's not like you're forever changed and you're this perfect person and everything's great and wonderful. It's just that now I'm this new person. And for the next 3 years, 5 years, or however long it is, I can pull these things out again. I can go through them again. I can make more expansion. I can, so it's it's a continual thing because I think, wow, if I've made this much progress in this much time, how much more progress can I make with eyes that are open that were closed before? What will I see now that I didn't see before? And with that new perception, what more expansion can there be? I wake up each morning with a grateful heart and open mind, and I never did before. I mean, I actually wake up and the first thought that is in my mind every single day is gratitude that I'm actually awake and have the day ahead of me, compared to waking up saying, oh my God, another damn day. It's wonderful to feel. And I did not have a lot of joy in my life when I first met you. I can truly say that every day of my life now, I have joy in my life every single day. I remember the first time we'd been working together for a few months, and I remember the first time I felt this emotion, and it was like, what's this emotion? And I was almost afraid of it. And I realized this is joy that I have not felt in so very many years. I mean, the years of my husband's health issues not only robbed our marriage of some of the joy we could have had, it robbed a lot of the joy from my life. The critical bosses that I had robbed joy from my life. There's just a lot of things that happened that had robbed joy in my life. I did not even know that I did not have joy in my life anymore until it started to bubble up this one day. And it was almost scary. It's like, I think I know what this is. Anyway, I have felt it before, but I'm not sure what it is. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm happy. I'm truly happy. It was scary to realize that I was truly happy for the first time in years. And that doesn't mean that I don't have challenges every once in a while. That doesn't mean that something doesn't throw me off every once in a while. But the nice thing is, it doesn't take me hours or years or months to get back to joy. At the very, very longest, it might take a couple hours, but usually it's a case of, okay, I control how I feel. Nobody else can control me. I control my feelings. And if somebody's pushed my button and I've gone off into left field, what do I need to do to get back to where I want to be, which is in a joyous position? So that, I think, is one of the greatest gifts that I have received from us working together. Now, in addition to that, the business that I had for 24 years started out very slow. It took me years and years and years and years and years to start getting the income up where I needed it to be. This year, in less than 12 months, probably about 10 months, with the opening of my heart and my mind and the other skills that I have been developing, this year, by the time I file my taxes, I am either going to be equal to or very close to equal to what was my highest income year after 24 years of having a business. And I think that is absolutely amazing and phenomenal. And I have to say, I was not in an emotional and psychological state at any time with my former business that I am with this business. Maybe you don't see those little incremental changes early on, but pretty soon it's like, oh, wow, I'm not even the same person I was before, and I am happy now. And now let's make a few more changes. I would say, number one, don't sell Harmony short, because she is magnificent in how she can help a person become their best future self. And number two, don't expect results overnight. If you're faster at making changes than I was, congratulations. And if you're a little bit slower at making changes than I have been, hang in there, because it's all inner work. It's all inner work, and inner work doesn't happen overnight. Although it can, I would challenge anyone to ask themselves the same question I asked myself. If not now, when? If you want your life to change, if not now, when? Will change for the better be better by waiting 10 years or 5 years or 3 months? Or will change for the better be better by starting it now? I would also say, don't let the answers of my spouse or my kids or my mother or my brother or my sister or anybody else in your life, don't let them be an excuse for not becoming the best you can be. Very definitely, the best you can be is better than what anybody else's expectations are for you. If you're the real deal, I think until somebody starts to work with you, that question will be in their mind. And I have to say, one of the best investments I ever made, because it was an investment in me. And the only people who will not benefit from working with you are the people who are determined not to change, which simply means that they're closing their hearts and their minds to themselves. Change isn't always easy, but I'll tell you, it's so much better on the other side. It truly is. Are you the real deal? Yeah, you are. You've amazed me sometimes. Yeah, you have a way of tapping into energy that I have not witnessed before. It has been an amazement for me. And every once in a while, I see myself doing it now, and I'm going, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. When we started out, I didn't know how miserable I was with my life, because you live your life and you figure, well, this is how it is, and you don't really question too much. You don't want it to be that way necessarily, but you don't think of yourself as miserable until you get to the point where you're not miserable anymore and you're really happy and you have joy in your life. And then you look back and say, wow, I was really miserable. But when you're in your life, you don't necessarily think that you're miserable. You know that you would like things to be different, but you don't say that you're miserable, because if you actually admitted to yourself how miserable you were, you would do something to change it. But the nice thing is that when you take the time and the effort to work with Harmony and allow that process to happen, you come out of that miserable existence into a place of joy. And then you look back and you say, oh my gosh, this was the best decision I ever made in my life, because it is your life. And we don't know if we have 5 minutes or 50 years or 100 years in front of us. We might as well make the most of the years that we have, or the minutes that we have, whichever it is. And why spend it in misery if we can spend it in joy?